You are listening to the 90 Days Later podcast with Anna Charles, episode 217. Welcome to the 90 Days Later podcast, where we talk about what really happens when you take a break from drinking. And it turns out to be the best thing you've ever done. I'm Anna, coach to high achievers who are done waking up with regret and ready to feel in control around alcohol. If you've ever wondered what your life could look like with less wine and more you're in the right place. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. Now, today we are going to be talking about feeling ready, and I decided on this topic because in last week, talking about feeling dread, the idea of readiness came up sort of as a sideline, had a bit role in it, and I thought, let's bring that center stage. So today we're talking about that, about feeling ready, or more specifically, I would say, is the belief that you need to feel ready before you change anything, right? That you might have that belief. And this comes up all the time when people are trying to drink less, right? I hear things like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I want to do this. I need to do this, but I'm going to start after this busy period. I just need to get through this month. I'll do it after I'm back from vacation. I'm not ready yet. There's a wedding I need to go to, and I can't imagine not drinking or drinking less there, right? So we have all of these stops in the way, and the words you use there are actually interesting as well to analyze. But anyhow, I want to gently but clearly say the following. Feeling ready is not a prerequisite for change. It is a feeling. It is not a green light, right? It's not stop go. Now, a lot of people are waiting for a version of themselves to do this work who feels calm, who feels confident, who feels certain before they act. And listen, that version rarely shows up. How often does that version of you show up in anything in life that you think is going to be a challenge? And by the way, it might not be such a challenge. But let's unpack why we're waiting for that version of us. I think a lot of this starts when we're children, right? As we're socialized, that readiness makes sense, right? Think about it. When you were at school, you would have had a curriculum to study. Then you would study for a test, and you would revise for the test. You would prepare yourself for the test, and then you would sit the test, right? You would go through all the readiness until you're ready to do it. But even then, I want you to think readiness was still just a feeling. It wasn't an absolute. You could study for hours and hours and hours and still feel sick with nerves. That was certainly true for me when it came to any kind of maths exam. Or you could barely revise and tell yourself, I'll be fine. And I'm sure there were people in your class, and maybe it was you, who would do that, who would say that. Now listen, it's the same situation. You're taking an exam, but might have completely different feelings about it. And go figure, the outcome didn't always match who felt more ready, right? You might have not felt that ready and still done really well. This matters because as adults, when we get into the adult world, especially when we're high functioning, we're high achievers, and we have many accolades under our belt, we tend to carry forward the idea that preparation leads to readiness, or should lead to readiness, or this sort of one-on-one relationship. That if we just line things up enough, the feeling will arrive, right? We'll feel like we've got more time and there will be less stress. And then we also look at things like, if it's a calmer week, or it's just going to be better, I'm just going to do better, then I'll be more ready. But here's what's actually happening when we are doing this, sort of putting this off until we feel a certain way, until we feel ready. Your brain is trying to keep you safe. I've said this time and time again on the podcast, because change feels risky. Doing something differently feels unfamiliar. And your brain's job, its sole job, is to avoid discomfort and keep you safe. So it will offer you a very convincing story. You're not ready yet. Right? We can try that later. Now listen to this. It's not saying you're useless. It's not saying you can't do it. It sounds sensible and reasonable and even responsible. Right? It's not worth going for this until you feel ready. But a lot of the time, my friend, it is just fear dressed up as logic. And I think this shows up so clearly around alcohol, right? And the change we want to make there. You will hear people say, I do desperately want to drink less, but it really isn't the right time. I need to feel more settled, and on and on. And I get it, right? Life is full. This is one piece of your life. This is not the main bit of your life. But if you wait for life to calm down before you change a habit that is meant to help you cope with life, think about that. You're going to be waiting forever, because readiness is not something you discover one day. It is, I believe, and I offer, something you decide. Deciding you're ready does not mean you necessarily feel confident. You may, but you may not. Deciding you're ready does not mean you have no doubts. And deciding you're ready doesn't mean you know exactly how things are going to go. It simply means you are willing. And I love the energy of feeling willing. Willing to feel uncomfortable, willing to give it a go, willing to learn as you go, willing to be imperfect. That last one, if you are a perfectionist, might send shivers down your spine. But really, this willingness matters far, far more than feeling ready. I want you to think about key moments in your life where things actually changed, right? When you went ahead and did big things. And you may not have felt ready. Maybe you did for some of them, but I would bet that you didn't for all of them. How did you feel? Maybe unsure, maybe nervous, maybe even scared, but you were willing to go ahead anyway, right? And you figured it out as you did the doing. And listen, when it comes to this work, changing how you drink, you don't even need to figure it out. I've done that for you. Now, I paint the exact path for you to step along, right? Because this is how it works. I want you to think about this when it comes to readiness. You don't become ready and then take action. You take action and readiness grows afterwards, right? There was always going to be, because think about it, when are you going to be ready? There was always going to be a dinner coming up. There's always going to be a holiday or a stressful work period or a social situation where you think, oh, this would be so much easier if I'd waited. But if you are using alcohol to manage stress, to manage social pressure or overwhelm, waiting for those things to disappear before you change does not make sense. The skill is learning to do life without relying on drink, right? To make the drinking irrelevant. That is what I teach. And not waiting for a perfect window to appear is going to be a part of that. So if you're somebody who asks yourself, am I ready? Do I feel ready? Do I feel ready to reach out to Anna? I've been listening to her for a couple of years. I'm not sure if I'm ready yet. And by the way, that is very common. People can sit in my world for a while before taking a step forward. And then others of you hear me, you say, that's it, boom, and we're working together, right? You are the people who are not waiting to feel ready. But if you are thinking I'm not ready yet, instead of asking, do I feel ready? I want you to try this question. Am I willing to just get started where I am? Am I willing to have an awkward first dinner? Am I willing to sit with an urge? Am I willing to not enjoy every moment straight away? Right? Because this is what learning is all about. And here is something else that matters. I just want to throw this in. If you wait until you feel fully ready, I'm going to offer you're probably already, right, past ready. Right? You sort of, when you say I'm going to move into my comfort zone, and then I know to take action. Right? But comfort zones don't create change. They maintain the status quo. And if you are saying, by the way, I'm not ready to get out of my comfort zone yet and do this, I want you to consider, how comfortable is your current comfort zone? How comfortable are you making a beeline for the fridge every night and having a couple of glasses of wine before you cook dinner? How comfortable is that really? Right? Because this is why we do the work, actually, because we don't have a level of comfort with our life, even though we kind of pretend, the alcohol pretends to give that to us. So feeling ready often means you're not stretching yourself, and the growth that lives outside of that is just phenomenal. So if you are listening and thinking, I really want things to be different, but I really don't feel ready, Anna, I want you to hear this clearly. You do not need to wait for a different feeling. You need a decision to try, a decision to show up, a decision to keep going when it feels messy, when it feels hard. That is more than enough. And if you want support learning how to take action without waiting for your emotions to cooperate and tell you, we're ready now, that is the work I do. All right? I help people stop letting feelings run the show and start leading themselves through change. Right? We get to pick the feelings we want. So if you are done waiting and ready to build trust with yourself, I want you to reach out and book a call with me. You can see the link at 90dayslater.co at the top, or there will be a link in the show notes, because you do not have to feel ready. You just have to decide that you are. All right, that's it for this week. I will see you next time. If this episode hit home and you're ready to explore what life could look like with alcohol in the back seat, let's talk. I work with people one-on-one who are ready to create the relationship with alcohol that works for them, so they feel powerful in their choices and at peace with their habits. Go to 90dayslater.co and click on book a call, or grab one of the free guides in the show notes to this episode. And if this podcast is helping you, a rating or review goes a long way to help others find this work too.